When it comes to art journaling or mixed media, I'm a bit of a cheater. I like to get the same or similar results without, having necessarily the artistic skill or the exact supplies. In fact, I show a lot of that on my YouTube channel because I think a lot of you are like me. Now, I've been watching a lot of collage work lately from both of these ladies, Elizabeth St. Hilaire and Jackie Bernardi. Please check out their YouTube channels. They do a lot of collage work, and typically they start the same. They sketch their focal image, they do some underpainting, and then they collage with gel prints and painted papers. But I'm going to cheat because I don't have the artistic ability to pull that off. And I'm going to use a napkin to achieve my goal. So here I am showing the napkin and my finished art journaling page where I do torn paper collage. So what you're going to want to do is look through your napkins and find napkins that have fairly large focal images, things that you can collage on top of. And then you're going to want to go through your gel prints, your painty papers, your underpaintings, and pull out the colors that are similar to what you see in the napkin. Because we are going to use the artistic ability of the artist that created the art in the napkin as the basis for our collage work. So I'm going to kind of jumpstart this whole process by putting kind of an Insta background. I grabbed a gel print. It has some of the yellow that's in the center of this flower, and it's got some of that pink in the background. It's a perfect Insta background. So I am just going to cut that to size and glue it down with my matte medium. I'm using the gel version. You could use fluid as well, but I like the gel version here. I'm just putting a good coat of gel medium down, and then once I've got some straight edges, I'm just going to press that down and make sure I get good adhesion. I don't want to spend a lot of time creating a background, but if you don't have a gel print that works, you can definitely create a background that you think is going to go with the focal image that you have chosen. I'm just cutting off the excess and I'm making sure that dries, checking to make sure that I've got good adhesion. So now I am going to glue the napkin after I've taken off the 2 excess plies to this background. Now, if I glued it down right now, even though I'm going to collage on top, it might distort the colors. And because I want to actually benefit from the colors and the tones that the artist has used here, I don't want to muddy the water, so to speak. So I'm going to white out the area that's right under where I'm going to glue my focal image. So I just took a pencil and roughly sketched where that was. And then I'm coming in with my angle brush and I'm just going to use white gesso and white this out. Now you can give this 1, 2, 3 coats, however much you want. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not going exact. I just want to make this white underneath so I get the full benefit of the tones that the artist of the napkin has done. So once that's dry, I am going to glue my napkin down with my fluid matte medium. Now, if you've watched my channel, you know that I use napkins a lot as focal images in my art. And after I glue it down, as you see me doing here, I might do some overpainting, but pretty much that's it. So here's where I'm going to go down a road that I've not traveled before and use some of the things that I've picked up from Elizabeth, from Jackie. And I'm going to be brave enough to try something new. And I hope you join me in this. So now I am going to look at my picture and I'm going to see which petals are in front of or behind, because you want to start with whatever is furthest back or behind. So one petal is in front of the other, and those are the ones that I'm going to start with. Now, a lot of what I'm saying are things that I've learned from Elizabeth or from Jackie. And as much as I've watched or binge watched their videos, there is nothing you cannot replace actual doing for learning. So here I'm pulling out some of my collage papers that are matching the colors, the tones in the art from the napkin. Now I want lots of different patterns. I don't want to just use one paper here. Some of these have mixed colors. There's some teal in there. There's white. There's gold. There's all sorts of good things. I'm picking papers too that, this one's a deli paper. I've got some that are on tissue paper. I've got on book paper. I'm just doing kind of a rough look-see through my file folder of pinks and pulling ones that I think may work. I'm not necessarily going to use all these. I just want to have a stash of things right in front of me that might work. I learn as I go, and parts of this video I do speed up, but I am also sharing what things that I've learned about this process because I'm learning as I'm showing you this. I'm hoping that I'm going to get better, but I do make a lot of mistakes along the way, and that's okay because you can't replace learning by doing. So, Elizabeth St. Hilaire had talked about ripping the paper into various sizes using a lot of variety of papers in there. So right there on the left-hand side, there is a petal that is furthest back, and then there's a petal right on the right-hand side that's also kind of behind the others. And those are the ones that you want to try first. And you're supposed to match the tone of the color. So you keep your darks the darkest, your mediums, and your lights. Quite honestly, I don't know that I did a completely 100% successful job of that. But again, I am learning as I'm going, and I'm brave enough to try or fail at something new. So I'm just putting this in. Now, one of the things that I've learned here with ripping paper is if you rip it one way or the other way, you end up with that white edge. And this was a real struggle for me. And as you can see, I've got a lot of that white edge there, and you really want to avoid that as much as possible. And I think I get better as I go through the process of collaging these petals on here. So I think I did a good job of mixing my papers. When you watch Elizabeth rip these papers, it is a real skill. It looks easy. It is a little bit more complicated or difficult than what one might imagine. But again, as you go, you will figure it out. So I'm looking through the papers, looking to see what will match. And then, at some point, you just have to commit and glue it down, right or wrong. If I find later, I think, oh, that was a wrong piece, I can collage on top of it. There's nothing I can't that I can do right now that I can't undo in some way, shape, or form down the road. And I'll never get better if I don't start. So I'm just ripping different sizes and layering them up, trying to keep in mind the advice that I've gotten from binge watching all these collaging videos. Now, this does take time, so be warned. This napkin came from NINNYSNAPKINS.com, as do all my napkins. I've got a few other napkins that I think would be perfect for torn paper collage. Now you'll notice in my gel prints, I've got lots of different patterns and I've got brayered off sheets that I clean my brayer on. Those all are coming in really handy in this. You want to have variation. So now I'm going to work on that petal on the right hand side. And again, I want to keep the darks the darkest, the medium's the medium, and the light's the lighter. And I'm just kind of trying to match it with the collage papers that I have. Now you can paint specific collage papers for a project if that's what you want to do. I just wanted to use what I had, even if it was little less than perfect. Now I learned here that I started off, I was maybe making too tiny of torn papers. I could have, with the size of my focal image, gone a little bit bigger off from the beginning. I also realized that I needed to pay a little more attention to the tones. That kind of got muddled, especially as I progressed. I think I was just fatigued, tired out from trying to do it, and maybe pushing a little too fast, too far. I'm using my fluid matte medium. It's a Liquitex brand to glue this down. I have some in a container off to the side. So when you see me ripping and ripping a page or paper, I am basically trying to get rid of that white. Inevitably, however I was ripping it, gave me that white edge. So I spent a lot of time then ripping it down. I ended up with a lot of little ripped pieces around me. But if you're going to bake a cake, you're going to have to break some eggs. And if you're going to do some torn paper collage, you're just going to have to turn some paper into basically confetti. I think what I would do, and you see me doing it later, I rip them and place them. And then once I have pretty much all the ones for a petal and I'm happy with the look, then glue it down. But again, I'm figuring out what works for me. I've watched Elizabeth do hers, I've watched Jackie do hers, and I'm going to find my way, as will you. This will also help me when I go and make collage papers. I will choose to do it on more on deli paper or on tissue paper. I will choose to do it with different combinations of colors. If collage, torn paper collage is something that I find that I like doing. Now, because I'm just learning how to doing this, I'm doing this on an art journal page. But I have more of this focal image. I will do this again on a cradled wood panel and turn it more into a home decor piece. So do your learning on an art journal page where you're just risking a piece of mixed media paper. Figure out what works for you. Now, this petal, I must say, I am very proud of how this petal turned out. So I have a little piece of pink there, so I'm ripping a very narrow strip, and you can layer it up, but you need to rip it in a way that doesn't give you that white edge. And I think that's ripping it down, holding it close in your fingers and ripping downward. This piece is very light. It is the lightest one. I did have a lot of them, but I did maximize this piece of gel print. And I apologize that a lot of my ripping is off camera. but it's very difficult to do it in front of the camera because you kind of want it closer to you. So I'm putting this part, this white part is kind of like a petal that is lifting up. So it's forward. So the rest of the petal is behind, and then that part is flipped up. So that is why I'm putting it on last. And I'm just piecing together that I don't have to rip it all in one piece. And there we have it. I'm very proud of this petal. I think it turned out really good. I like the interest in it. There's some darks and lights, a little bit of blue, some orange colors. We have a lot of interest in there. So now I'm moving over to this petal because it's the next one it's in front of the other one. So that's going to go there. And I put that one, it has some teal on it, and I really like that little bit of teal on it. And I put that on several of my petals at this time. So you're going to see me doing multiple petals at one time using the same collage papers, but I'm still being mindful of the fact of which petal is in front of which one. But I wanted this kind of interdispersed, this with the blue checks. And I think the mark making that made those blue checks and the white checks was actually shelf liner that I just love using in my gel prints. And I will do more of it because that really works well when I'm collaging. Now, when you start something, you're very mindful and you're in your head and overthinking it. As I progressed collaging this flower, I got more relaxed, I got more in the zone, and things worked out. This one seemed to be a little bit dark. I'm not sure if I end up removing it. I know there were several collage pieces that I put down and then either I collaged over them or I lifted them and got rid of them. Yep, there we go. He's gone. So now I've sped up the video because while I want to show the majority of it, it is a lengthy process. Video wise, it was over an hour of footage, and not all parts of this were videotaped. But I wanted to give you enough that you would go, hey, I could do that. But as I said, please go and check out Elizabeth St. Hilaire and Jackie Bernardi. And, when you're in their YouTube channel, just there's a search bar. Once you're in the channel, search for collage projects. For Elizabeth, a lot of them are several years ago. But I enjoy both of those ladies' channels and have learned a lot from both of them. So now I'm doing that bottom petal. And again, I'm mixing up the collage papers. I'm trying not to use the same ones for the entire petal. Then I realized, oh, the stem is furthest back. I need to do it. So I grabbed this dark green and I'm just ripping a very small one. I kind of put it down and then I realized it just looks kind of flat and boring. And now if I wanted to, I could have made that flower up, been up ahead, and then just drawn my own stem. Drawing a stem might be within my capabilities as an artist. So then I grab a tissue paper that has green, a couple different shades of green, and it's a much better match. Now, because there is the napkin and it's colored, If you don't 100% collage over top of it, no one is the wiser. In fact, you can selectively choose to not collage all the parts of it. You could also, while I tried to stay very close to the colors that were given, you could go to a different color and just follow the darks, the mediums, and the light tones of that color. So I could have gone um, more orange here or yellow, and I would have dark yellows, mediums yellows, and light yellows. But in that case, you need to be a little bit more precise. But again, I am using the skill of the artist who did the napkin. Now, I'm using napkins because that's something I have. If you want, you can have a real life photo and print it off and glue it down and then use that instead of doing the process that I saw Jackie and Elizabeth doing, where they sketched their picture and then they underpainted it and established the darks, the mediums, and the lights. But that just seemed beyond my artistic abilities. So again, I'm cheating. So I rip something out and then I try to find the perfect place for it on whichever petal. And I'm learning what kind of papers are working well. I do think I do need to use a lot more tissue paper or on deli paper. Um, Things that were on, the paper that was in phone books and directories, that collages so nicely. Also, one thing that I found that I did not use on this, but I definitely have to get out is using um, the coffee filter painted papers. So I got a little looser at this time. I got a little more comfortable, more in the zone, and I wasn't overthinking it and things progressed rather nicely. And I'm trying to keep in mind the things that I've learned from the people's videos that I've watched. Although, I wasn't 100% successful all the time. Here's another piece. This has white dots on it, again from that mark making tool, the shelf liner. But it made for some lighter tones or medium tones, which were perfect. I also tended at this point to rip bigger sized pieces, although you don't want them all the same. I do not like cut edges. So tearing the paper, once I got the hang of it, was definitely the way to go for me. And if you're using napkin art as the foundation, as the basis to jump off of this, the good part is most napkins, if they've got big focal images on them, you have 4 images. So you can try one out on mixed media paper like I'm doing here. And then once you've tweaked it and figured things out, then you can use another one of the sections on a wood panel or a canvas. So I was getting better at ripping kind of rounded edges, fitting it on this, trying to mimic what I might see in flowers. So as you go, you're going to observe a little bit more, you're going to be better at it. So now we have all the flower petals have been done, and happy with it. I think I lost a little bit of the darks and the lights. Now I'm going to do the center of the flower. And I picked out a bunch of papers, different yellows, and I'm just ripping those. And I thought I found the perfect piece. I'm not 100% happy with my center. I think I could have done a better job. I lost some of the wonderful detail that was in the center. Now, I could have opted to have left the center as it was and don't collage it. So here, this dark piece, I thought that looks just like the center of the flower. That's perfect. Room to grow. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm only going to do 20 minutes of this and then I'm going to leave it and come back to it. I think I pushed and ended up having a long creative session. So now I wanted to tweak the background a little bit. I got this new stencil just in the mail, and I'm just adding some of that magenta into the background. Just tweaking the background, finishing the page right now. I've done the major collage work. I'm happy with that. I've learned a lot. So now I'm just adding that. I'm also stamping with some script stamp here. And I decide to use my archival ink because I don't want it so dark. Just finishing it. Now I have my sentiment pack. This is my newest sentiment pack, which I've just uploaded to NINNYSNAPKINS.com. It is a digital download that's available for purchase, and it is my Moments and Memories sentiment pack. And I will link that if you want to check that out, if you're looking for sentiments. And I just grabbed one and I cut them apart. Here I'm bubble cutting the script part of this that says memories. The best thing about memories is making them. Then I'm giving everything a good coat because I'm thinking I need to do some shading on the flower now. Put in some of those darks. And I'm kind of reverting to the shading that I would do in my regular art journal pages. And I looked at the napkin, and actually, that is not a match for the one that I have because that napkin, there are four different flowers. They are close, but they are not the same. So I'm adding the shading in here with my angle brush, and I kind of wish that I didn't do that. I don't think it added to it. I actually liked it before I added the shading. Lesson learned. And then I shaded around and edged the page. I should have just done that instead of shading on the flower. I learned. Or I should have shaded it maybe with navy. And then, or I could have just skipped the shading that I just did and just you do some sketchy charcoal lines here. And I like that effect a little bit better. So moving forward, doing it another time, which I definitely will do with this napkin or a different one. I remove the tape and then I decide, oh, I'm going to add some gold splatters. If you'd like to see me doing more torn paper collage, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know if this is something that you're going to give it a try. And there's the finished page. Overall, I think it was a win. I learned a lot. And there's the actual napkin as it was. And then I have the collage version. So if you don't think you have the artistic ability, you can be a cheater too. Just use a napkin as the jump start to your collage work. Until next time, go get creative.